Welcome into episode 6 of Just Beavin. We are recapping week 1. We have made it through the first week of the NFL season. So much fun, so much great football to be had for all. Beaver himself already flashing the Beaver Fest t-shirt or cutoff, as we can refer to it as. JP as well, Andy here with you. We are recapping week 1. Big agenda today. We're having our first Beavin guest. Stay tuned for that. We'll keep it a secret as to who the guest is, although it'll probably come out because we recorded it around this in terms of recapping and previewing. It'll be pretty easy to figure out who our guest is for this week. We will be giving our week 2 picks, and we have updated power rankings as well heading into the second week. First of all, gentlemen, football side, we are recording this pretty late on a Wednesday night. Just how are the vibes right now? How are we doing?
I'm vibing. I'm not that tired. I mean, we just got done playing softball. I mean,
Yeah.
our fellow pod member, Mr. McGuire, awesome. Puking in the outfield and still rallying. Love to see it. How you feeling, McGuire?
Much better now that I got some food in me.
You
There we go.
hydrated
This
now?
this school thing is really, I don't eat anymore. But we're back. I'm glad to be back on the pod and get
Yeah.
another episode in. Football's back. It was week 1. It was great until it wasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's get right into these
Hey,
recaps. Andy, let's
hey,
take it away with your match.
hey,
Beef.
real quick. Shout out, Bears are 1-0. Let's give a hand.
There's one.
Yeah,
Our
that
Chicago
deserves a round
Bears.
of applause. That deserves a round of applause.
Wasn't the way we wanted the offense to look, but that's all right.
No.
A win
All right.
is a win.
Win
Win's
is
a
a win
win.
at the end of the day. Win is a win. Win is a win. Come back down 17-0. But yeah, let's do it. Let's get into the week 1 recaps. And as you see on our screen right now, we'll start with myself against my week 1 and week 14 rival, Mr. Frank Tamillo, Mahomes and friends. And how about this? An upset here in the brewing. I know my other two panel members here took Frank to win, and understandably so. Number 1 on most of the power rankings we have done on this show. But yeah, come from behind, pull out the upset, 122, 112, the final. So much to take away on my end. First of all, you see an updated team name for myself. This is a team name I had in our first season. And for all the podcast members or listeners, I should say, and all the league mates know, I have the worst injury luck out of everybody in this league. Injuries are happening at a higher rate in the NFL nowadays. There's no doubt about that. But my injury rate is horrible. I lost 3 of my key players in week 1. JP showing you right now. Puka Nakua on the IR. Literally 2 guys playing the same position in the same game on different teams. David Njoku, Jake Ferguson. They both are banged up as well, dealing with lower body injuries. It was really hard to see, but we pulled out the victory. And it's one of those, won the game, but at what cost? And you're even circling it too, JP. That's right. Devon A-Chain might not even play tomorrow night. We'll get into that as well for our week 2 preview. Guys needed to show up and do the job. We did the job. I was satisfied with the victory. It's my first time ever beating Frank in the league, which for me was a pretty big deal. Wanted
Woo!
to
That's
care
an
of-
accomplishment
Good
in
deal,
itself.
baby.
That's
I
an
know the-
accomplishment in itself.
I know the rest of the league was pretty happy about it too. I want to shout out A-Chain, Kamara, 45 points without their outstanding productions, and pretty sure they were the only 2 guys on my team that overshot their projections for week 1. Without them, would not have. And Jerome Ford with that garbage time touchdown, which may have saved my hopes in winning this week. Without those 3 guys, wouldn't have won here in week 1. But yeah, for the first time in the 3 years of this league, we're starting off 1-0 and pretty pumped up about it. Obviously, the injuries suck, but we'll get around it. We'll figure it out. Just happy to be on the winning side to start the season.
Yeah, big win, not only for, you as a manager, but for me as an owner of Frank's 2025 first round pick. Every
go.
loss that he takes, I celebrate and will continue to celebrate. The one thing I really took away from this match was poor managing from Frankie. Very, very poor managing from Frankie. I understand the tight end premium, but it's only 1.75. It's not like we're getting a full point out of it. I don't understand the decision to start 2 tight ends when you have Kenneth Walker sitting on the bench after all the camp reports have been how the Seahawks are going to start running the ball. I mean, 28 carries just between the 2 running backs. And then in terms of total touches, they got 32 total touches between the 2 of them. And Kenneth Walker was an absolute workhorse with 20 carries. I don't know what prompted him to leave him on the bench. I'm sure we will not see the same lineup this week, but I'm with this talented of a roster, you almost have to make these tough decisions every week. And Frank's starting off on a bad decision-making train. And, if this continues to be the trend with bad managerial decisions, I could see, he's obviously, talent always beats hard work. I don't give rats what the quote is, but eventually these managerial decisions are going to bite him in the ass, and he will not be able to overcome this, just as we saw this week. So,
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the spot, man. I mean, just tough squad to manage. I mean, like you said earlier, I mean, he made some moves that I probably would have done if I was managing the squad. But I mean, tough roster. I mean, you gotta do what you think your guts wants you to do. So, I mean,
I'll give
gotta
him the
do.
benefit of the doubt. I mean, St. Brown and London put up absolute stinkers,
Yeah.
but I'm truly wondering if he's not going to put up 4 points every week, but I am a little worried about St. Brown in terms of I don't know if
Hey,
he's going to have those like 35-point explosions anymore. I mean, they just have so many mouths to feed, and when
Yeah.
the run game works how it works with Gibbs and Montgomery, I mean, why do they even need to go away from that? And now with the
yeah.
emergence of Jamison Williams, I mean, they use him as a gadget player, and they were using him at all levels of the field on his route running. So definitely a little worried about St. Brown, but I mean, we'll obviously see as the season progresses. But
I don't know. Yeah. You got anything, Yak, or
Just like I said, happy to be 1-0. Good QB play from Frank per usual. A little worried about Burrow and Herbert on my side, but once again, it's one of those we'll figure it out as we keep going along, and that's that.
hey, let me tell you a story real quick. Hey, shout out to our new member on his first win, Cam Crook.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man.
Mr. Cameron indeed taking on a fellow expansion league member in Brady. And fellas, I remember last week going through the preview for this matchup, and I said both of these guys, I think it was 109 for Cam, 107 for Brady. And what I said in terms of what I thought, I said I could very easily see Cam winning this game by 10 to 12, but both teams undershooting their projections. And man, was I wrong about Cam here in week 137 points. And oh, yeah, he had two guys put up goose eggs, Jahan Dotson, Luke Musgrave. He scored the third highest points in the entire league this week, won handily, and could have had a lot more as well if other decisions were made, but didn't even matter. He didn't even need the points from those two guys. Took care of business. And yeah, like Drew said, congrats, Cam, on your first win here in the Beaver Fest Dynasty Fantasy Football League.
I mean,
yeah,
go ahead.
all
Go
you
ahead, you're
beef.
good. I mean, who would have thought Baker Mayfield would have had 30 points? I mean, that's just a big shocker to me, especially with J.K. Dobbins too, 2290. I mean, that just shocked me too. I mean, good for him for having them perform well. I was just not expecting that. I mean, CD did disperform, but I mean, like you said, he had two goose eggs and freaking still won and had the third highest points in our league. So I mean, shout out to him for having a good win this week. What do you got, McGuire?
Wandale Robinson might be the steal of the expansion draft. I'm pretty sure he went in the turn from the third to the fourth round. And I'm not
He
a big
did.
believer in Wandale Robinson or anything, but I always thought that the value is there. You might as well. I mean, he's what, 23 still,
Mm-hmm.
and this is his third season, and he's just been this like electric player who I figured would just turn into a gadget guy. But I mean, 12 targets.
Yeah.
They threw to him
Yeah.
12 times. If he even catches 3 more of those, that's 14. Cam puts up 140 in his first week as an expansion team. That's absolutely mind-boggling. And nothing Brady could do. I mean, his
Yeah.
roster. I mean, you go to his bench, he plays Tank Bigsby and freaking Devon Vele, and he ends up with 122 instead of 137. But nothing Brady could do. Tough week to go up against Cam, but evidently Cam really showed out for himself, and this was a damn good showing for a week 1 expansion team. So all credit to Cam there.
Didn't look like an expansion team at all. And he mentioned Robinson. Hurts the soul. I let him go in the expansion draft. Wish things may have been a little different, but
Yeah, and
it is all right.
I thought Chuba Hubbard would do a little better for Brady. I mean, that Panthers O just looked atrocious. I mean, I thought it'd be a little better from last year, but it just looked the same. It might have been even looked a little worse.
Doesn't help falling down 30-0 in the first half. You're not going to really run the
No.
rock a whole lot when that's the case.
No.
So
No. All right, let's move on here to dedicated Wham. Cam versus Dade Spanky. I believe last episode we all projected how many points Dade was going to score. And let me tell you, we were all off by a large margin. Andy projected 62.2. I projected 66.8. And even Beaver, who was so high on Dade, projected 73.86. And Dade absolutely hit those out of the park. And at the same time, I believe I don't want to quote myself on this, but I do believe we all said that Cam Boyer was going to smash his projection, and he was 30 points under his projection.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Luckily,
what a
he was playing
disappointing
the
week.
Titanic, but
I mean, what a disappointing week. I mean, for him, just for his team as well. I mean, Jordan Love goes down for injury. I mean, let's Olave. I mean, that was a big doom. I mean, I thought he had a good game, especially with them having what 48 points they had against the Panthers or what they have, right?
40,
Something
yeah.
around on that. Cooper, bad game. I mean, that offense as well looked atrocious against the Cowboys. I mean, just a lot of bad performances on his team that I thought would not happen during this week.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Cam, but like you guys were saying, if there's a week to have this, it's against a team like Dade's. And yeah, I want to shout out Dade too. Smashed his projection, finished as the not lowest scorer in the league here in week 1. You'll learn more about that as we go on to
Kyle Juszczyk
recapping.
smashed his projection.
Yeah, 6 points. I think
Yeah.
part of that's with the Christian McCaffrey injury, but even though it was all receptions, getting some work in out of the backfield, catching passes from Brock Purdy. You're just looking at too. I think a lot of it, if you scroll down, you see Jaden Reed's insane game that he had Friday night out in Brazil. That definitely helps. But hey, it's a part of Dave's roster. We said it going into the preview that in terms of non-quarterback play, Jaden Reed was the guy on his roster, and he showed out. Unfortunately, still not nearly enough to get the job done. But this is where I think this comes into play. If he gets a couple of booming performances from a guy like Jaden Reed from other people, he could, in theory, with how we've seen scoring go for other teams in this league, he could sneak a win without even meaning to this year. I was impressed with what I saw there. And for Cam, like I said, it's one of those kind of similar situation. Other teams in this league, myself with the injuries and a lower scoring, but beating a team that's much better than mine. Win is a win at the end of the day. You took care of business. That's all you can really ask for.
I'm telling you, boys, he's gonna finish with at least 2 wins this year. That's my prediction. His line right now on FanDuel is 1.5.
Is 0.5.
0.5.
You're taking an alternate line of 2 wins, but the line
The only
is
way
at
he gets
0.5.
the only way he gets 2 wins is if someone blatantly uses their warning and tanks against him. That's it. And oh boy.
Hey, just a little
Mr.
quick question
McGuire.
on Cam. Just a little quick question on Cam's team too. Are you guys a little worried about Josh Jacobs?
No, I think now
I'm
that
not.
Love is injured, they're going to feed him more. Plus that Philly, not even front 7 or front 4, the front 2. You're moving 2 Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter combined weigh more than a Ford F-150. Okay, that's not actual, but I mean they
They're
weigh a
big
lot.
dudes.
They're big dudes.
I just
Yeah.
thought I just thought the Packers line was a lot better than what everyone was talking about. You know what I mean?
So did
don't
I,
think
but
so,
they got
but-
bullied. They got bullied.
Yeah, and if you look at his
It's just a matter of
splits, he had
fact.
2 points in the first half and 10 in the second. He got better as the game went along, and yeah, like JP
That's
said, the
fair.
injury to Love's going to help it out. Trust me, I have Jacobs in both of my redraft leagues, and I was very irritated Friday. I think he'll be all right, and just in general, Joe Mixon, fantastic game as well. First game with Houston, got 30 carries out of the backfield, pounded the rock for that offense in a huge divisional win against Indy. I like that RB pairing for Cam moving forward.
Yeah, moving forward, I'm still not worried about Cam. I think he's going to succeed in this league. So just bad week, and like we said, good week to have a bad week.
Another one
Moving
that
on
we
here
had,
to the war on Route 4.
Yeah, we're warring out for a lot of one that I think we swept the board in terms of projections, or did you take Matt, Drew?
I took Matt.
You did take Matt. I know me
You
and
know,
JP
this
took Luke.
this matchup really disappointed me. I thought Matt was gonna go a little bit over his projection, but obviously he didn't. I mean, he did have Brian Robinson play really well. I was not expecting that. I was expecting him to have at least like 10 to 12 points. He had 18. I'm gonna count that as 18. I mean, his receivers just, besides Diggs, I mean, did not perform. Kirk, and plus the other one we gotta talk about, he traded for Isaiah Likely and Keenan Allen. His team is already okay at best, going against us 5 powerhouses in the North. He trades for these 2 players for his first and doesn't start him. I just don't know what he was thinking there. Mind you, he dropped, what, 31 points? Was that what it was? 31?
32. To sum it up, he
32.
would have if Matt starts Isaiah Likely, Matt wins the week.
So that just
Yeah.
baffles me. I don't know what he was thinking there. I mean,
Right,
what
you know,
really,
like what I heard through the rumor mill was Likely missed his flight over to the Roll Red to catch the Roll Red team plane and was just unable to be with the team at the game, and so unfortunately had to watch from home this week. But you know, Matt's really hoping to get him out there next week.
and if you look at Luke's top 3, I mean, that really seals it, like right here, like right in there. That really seals the deal for him in this match.
Well, if you look at Josh Allen's nickname, he did
Carry
just
me,
that.
please. Yeah, no,
I mean,
fantastic.
he did, so. I mean,
So my favorite is I don't think Darius Slayton's ever spent a week on Luke's bench here. Even
No.
when Luke was winning 8 games, I still don't I still think Darius Slayton has spent a week on Luke's bench, and I absolutely love it.
Luke's like the high
And
school football coach that has a pretty solid team and has that one kid who's just not very good, but he's got a hard on for him and he plays him every single week. That is Darius Slayton for Luke.
like the coach's kid.
Luke's got to be ecstatic though that Kyle Pitts scored a touchdown. I mean, you see the points per block nickname, one of
Yeah,
the
Oh my
best
god,
nicknames
he
in the
still
league.
did
But
his projection. Oh my god, that's
no,
crazy.
I don't know what sleeper
that was way too high
what
though.
I don't know what
Especially-
sleepers ever seen that has allowed them to project.
Yeah, what
Pitts
is?
14.77, but
I'm not trying to go back to his team, but K. Dotton's projection was 11 points. There's just no way. There's just no
yeah,
way.
it's got to be a week one like inflation or something. But I don't
There's
know.
no way. Yeah, I don't know. That just mind blows. Wow. Okay.
But yeah, bad week. Bad week for Roll Red. Unfortunately, he is down one game in the war on Route 4, and the Mean Green Machine and John Deere prevail. As we move on to our next match here, the absolute stinker of the week.
Toilet bowl.
Me and Andy's upset of the week with Lockheed Martin upsetting the Russian. Okay, well, the projections don't show it, but at the time of the last video, Ty was projected to lose this match.
He was.
And before we get into this, I want to change my pick to Ty, but I had to stay with my pick because I already made it. So shout out to you, Ty. Good win.
I think I want to point out too, the reason why it was projected more for Jack is because he had Josh Downs in his lineup and he started an injured player who was ruled out on Saturday. So he has been giving his first warning from Commissioner McGuire himself, and that's what lost him this match, fellas.
That really is. And, you really hate to see it because if he put in Pierre Strong, which he wouldn't have, but if he did, he'd be 1-0.
Yeah.
And the beauty of this matchup, as I get to relish it twice, is that I own both of their firsts. So quite frankly, for me, it's a win-win. I could have gave 2 cares less about who would have won this match. But unfortunately for Jack, it's going to be rough.
I mean,
80. I mean, look at how far off from their projections they were.
Yeah.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
And I told Drew this fun fact of this matchup is Jack had more double-digit scores than Ty did. And he still lost the matchup. Jack had 4 and Ty had 3.
Hey,
this was just overall.
You guys remember when I called the Mike Evans 2 touchdowns?
Yeah. Hopefully
not
you all
the 100
ran
yards. That part wasn't there, but 2 touchdowns.
Hopefully you all ran out to your local books and placed your bets for Mike Evans. It was a good game for that Tampa offense, putting up 37 on a rather weak Washington defense.
The only thing I'm going to say about this matchup is if you're starting Jalen Tolbert at your flex, you got to do something about that.
Hey, we all bashed on Rashid Shaheed though, and he scored 16.3 points. So.
When I saw him have that long touchdown, I let out a chuckle and I said, well, it's going to make us look stupid for the last episode that we had, and I'm sure we'll address it for episode 6 previewing the next week.
I heard Bauer sent out a text to Dennis Allen to have their OC run all go the whole game, and hopefully Rashid's open one time.
It worked. It worked indeed. Yeah, you look at it though. Tony Pollard played well for Ty. Chigakonko as well, an insane grab. I could not believe he hauled in that touchdown. You two boys got to see it firsthand live at Soldier Field. Yeah, that's unreal.
That was disgusting.
The crazy thing is Tyreek Stevenson is one player, just won NFC Defensive Player of the Week, and he's been celebrated everywhere. I personally didn't think he played that good outside of the pick 6.
That's all I had.
They were targeting him all the time because he got burned and Will Levis missed Calvin Ridley on a touchdown. Yeah. I was really unimpressed by Tyreek Stevenson for the bulk of that game. So I'm very curious how this week's going to look when he's matched up every single play against Dell, Collins, or Diggs. So
a big time playmaker, no matter who it is. And you talked about Levis too.
Yeah,
that's honestly, who Ty ran out, and that trade is looking brutal right now. That Bears defense ate his lunch entirely on Sunday.
And we'll get to it next matchup, and it will shock you. I don't know if you looked at his lineup for week 2, but we'll just keep from there right now.
I also want to take a quick victory lap before we move on from this matchup. Drew was talking Chase Brown up, and I mentioned that I did not like Chase Brown at all heading into this matchup, and I still don't like Chase Brown. But we will see as we move forward. Maybe they trust him a little more, but Zach Moss did end up getting the touchdown in that game. So let's move on here to Beav himself. Me and Andy both picked against Beav, going with Kale. We were really unsure what to expect with Jamar Chase and really, quite frankly, the running back core. I know, Andy, you touched on it, talking about we're not sure what to expect from Eckler. And quite frankly, I was expecting a lot more from Harris. I mean, he got the volume. He just did not have the production. So,
Yeah. Running backs are really what killed Kale in this one. Talk about Tyreek Hill having that 80-yard touchdown that's usually going to help you with 26. That connection between him and Tua looks, they picked up right where they left off from a season ago. Bit of a stinker from Travis Kelce, too. You're not used to seeing that a whole lot, getting under double-digit points, especially now in a tight end premium league. And honestly, the whole bottom, Deontay Johnson, Jalen Warren, it was a bad day to be a Steelers running back. And unfortunately for Kale, when you start both of them, yeah, even Dak, 11 points, just frustrating for about half the lineup. He had a couple of guys play really well, but unfortunately, when 4 or 5 guys let you down, they undershoot your projection. You're probably not going to win your matchup 8 out of 10 times.
Eve, talk yourself up. Give yourself some hype.
I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I mean, I was a little in panic mode on Friday. I mean, watching that Packers Eagles game, I told you guys last week I was very, very nervous about that game going into it. And I mean, Hurts, man, just looked brutal in that first half. I think 2 picks and a fumble, right?
They were the 2 picks were ugly.
I mean, I think he had 2 points at halftime, if that. I know for a fact he had.
At the end of the first quarter, he had negative 3.96 or something.
I mean, it was just rough. And then, I mean, it just came down to the wire. I mean, I got lucky that Laporta got catches. I mean, I was down, I think, 11 going into this game with Laporta and Montgomery left. And Laporta wasn't getting any catches, and Montgomery got barely, because he splits carries with Gibbs, so I was freaking out. Luckily, Montgomery, they went to OT, and Montgomery got that garbage time touchdown. I mean, can't really say garbage time because they won the game, but I mean, that touchdown saved me. I'm not gonna lie, because if Laporta would have got one more catch or something and he fumbled, I would have lost the game because I only have a point. But really, what I want to get into is that I just don't think I was really never about Kelce. Every time, and I don't want to bring her into the podcast, but anytime Taylor Swift's at a game when Kelsey's there, he does terrible.
Unless it's against the Bears.
Awful.
Yeah, he went off against us. Yeah, and he went crazy.
Well, and then I didn't get either why he started Jalen Warren. I swear I saw someone on.
I understand why you've been talking up DTR. This makes a lot more sense. That makes so much more sense. Why the whole car ride home you were talking DT. This makes so much more sense now.
No, scroll down for me though. Didn't he have someone better to start over Warren? I'm just confused about that.
Yeah, he had Alan Lazard. In hindsight, hindsight's 2020. Who the hell was starting Alan Lazard? But
that is fair.
Yes, he could have started Alan Lazard.
Shout out Cedric Wilson with the negative 2 points as well. You don't really ever see that from anyone.
Just one thumb lost.
Hey, shout out Marvin Mims too, baby. Future Dirty Beef or former Dirty Beef. Fuck, my bad.
There you go, Drew. Attaboy.
All right, well, let's wrap this week up.
Congrats on your week 1 victory, Drew. And yes, without further ado, sorry to cut you off, Mr. McGuire. I wrap up our week 1 recap.
No, don't worry about it. We finish out this week with me and Beav trailing Andy, as me and Beav both go 4-3. Andy picks himself to beat Frankie, boosting him to 5-2. As we're now going to move on to week 2 and make our picks as we keep this thing rolling.
We will do that. But first, we have to get to our Beavin Guest himself.
Oh, the Beavin Guest, the newest segment.
Beavin Guest.
That is right.
Can't forget about the newest segment. We still have one more match to recap, along with previewing his matchup against Drew for week 2. It is Jacob Zaparo. Can you take me higher? Joining us here right now on Just Beaver. New segment here on the show. Beavin Guest. Beaver himself going to pepper our guests joining the show with a boatload of questions. And this one comes with a lot of drama here from week 1 of our season. As you can see, King of the North, Jake himself joining, or as he self-proclaimed on his Zoom name here. Mr. Zaparo, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Just Beavin. And we're going to give the floor to you and Beaver as we go through your highly exciting week 1 matchup with Kevin Parker, Mr. McGuire, also here on our panel.
Yeah, so thanks for joining the show today, Jake. Appreciate coming on. But tell me a little bit about this matchup for me.
Yeah, no fucking drama. Okay, I don't know what we're talking about. This was a blowout. This was never in question. I dog walk, some would describe it. I wasn't scared for a moment. I know there's some mischief in the chat or whatever. Yeah, right. I mean, this isn't a rivalry. Clearly, I never lost to him, So no rivalry here. Absolute fucking blowout. Never in doubt.
So tell me this: did your panties get in a bun when Jordan Mason was actually going off and he was actually playing like C-Mac here in this
No,
game?
no, I never texted the chat about Jordan Mason and potentially dropping him. I never doubted that. I mean, Jordan Mason, fucking loser, 2 first names. That's terrible. What an idiot. Who's his dad? Mason
Isn't
Jordan?
Garrett Wilson also 2 first names?
Well, okay, if you name your son Wilson, you deserve to be executed. I mean, what are we talking about? That's just ridiculous. Wilson? What are you from Castaway?
What about Jaden Daniels?
Yeah.
Daniels S. That's multiple.
Okay, what about Bucky Irving?
Yeah, that's terrible too. Irving.
What about Gus Edwards?
What, does he have AIDS?
Jake, I will say, when looking at this matchup, thing that stood out to me on your end was quarterback play. Jaden Daniels making his first NFL start, and your guy Anthony Richardson as well, despite only completing 9 passes. He let it rip as well and had a fantastic game. I'm sure you were pleased with how your quarterbacks looked here in week 1.
Yeah. You know, everyone says Lamar Jackson, Anthony Richardson, running backs. Yeah. Why do you think I'm fucking starting him in fantasy? Or do you think I want to start Matt Ryan? What do I want? I want someone who's running the football. So Jaden Daniels did too. I like his little spicy dance. You guys see that? 7-28. He did that he hit the Quan in the end zone. R.I.P. Rich Homie Quan. That was sick.
Yeah. One of our best social media posts. Jake, thanks for the quote on that, and make sure
of course
go to check.
Yeah,
out
I don't think we did him justice in his introduction. Not only is he king of the North, but he's also the vice commissioner.
Vice commissioner. That's on me. Hand up. I'll take that. Jake, I will say though, just trying to nitpick. There's not much here for your roster scoring the most points in the league this week, but Brandon Ayuk, Romo Dunze, not the best weeks, not what you're looking for, and obviously now Dunze dealing with injury, something I know a lot about, as you'll hear in our first go at recapping the other matchups here from this week. But level of concern on Ayuk, especially after signing that contract?
None. He's Brandon Ayuk. Yeah. Needed some offseason time, but not worried at all, especially with CMC out. Not worried at all.
What was the vibe? What was the energy like in the locker room after the victory was officially clinched, and just the overall morale around your franchise as you move forward?
Well, we have 3 Hammer and Sickle fans over here who calling week 1 a week ago, you know, I'm gonna lose. I don't know about the rookies. It was never in doubt. I use that as motivation. My team's full of red-blooded Americans, patriots. They showed up, they did what they did, and they dominated the game.
I will say, I think at least for me, and I'm pretty sure everyone had this vibe. If you go back and check the tape, I'm pretty sure I called it a coin flip matchup, but I could see it literally going either way. But I leaned JP, and I'm not just saying that because you're here. I was going to say that when we were recapping.
Matter of fact, I think
I still think he's a fraud, quite frankly.
oh yeah, we didn't. Before we even jumped into
he pretty much hit his ceiling, and he beat my Marvin Harrison putting up a freaking dud, and he didn't even beat me by a full point. Yeah. I personally think that Can You Take Me Higher is a freaking fraud.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
Thank you, Kevin Parker.
When he's out first round of the playoffs, you heard it here first. When he loses to Dade in the first round of the playoffs, well, Dade ain't making the playoffs. When he loses to Kale in the first round of the playoffs, you heard it here first.
Hey, I will give it to you, Zippy. I was not expecting Jaden Daniels to get 28 points there. Shout out to you.
He's a fraud. He's a fraud. He's a fraud.
I'm so excited for week 14. This is
what
rivalry is all about, folks.
I'm ready for all competition with arms wide open.
28 points. He completed 17 passes and only got 180 yards. This guy's a fraud. Yep. This guy's an absolute fraud. Anthony Richardson completed 8 less passes and had 50 more yards than this bum. Fraud.
I don't need
this won't happen again in week 14.
RB2.
And you can book that.
RB2.
Kevin Parker moneyline in week 14 is a freaking lock.
If you don't mind, can I just see what week 1? What was the lowest score? If I do recall, it's pretty bad.
That was
right.
That was Mr. Bauer.
Yeah, right here.
Yeah, this is a great game. So this is great. I mean, look at this. This is real football right here. Now this is like going to the bar, right? And you and your buddy are both trying to hit on the same chick. And then, you end up winning if you're tie here. And then, the chick starts showing you her phone and she's showing you highlights and she goes, yeah, this is my dad winning the 2006 finals MVP. And all of a sudden, did you really win? Because you only scored 89 points. And all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, fuck.
What's her name now? Zaya?
Yeah, I believe so. Beautiful woman.
Let's look ahead to week 2 now.
Well, welcome to the pod, Mr. Sapporo.
Another panel member taking on Zippy here.
We get our predictions. JP, I think we should start with how did everyone do last week?
In terms of who and what and where.
Predictions. We're keeping track of
that's
wins
right.
and
The
losses
predictions.
from week 1.
Last week I went 4-3.
Mhm.
Drew went 4-3, and Andy, you are in the lead at 5-2.
I wonder what that one difference in terms
The
of
real
the game
difference
was.
maker was you upsetting Frankie.
Yeah, interesting. But yes, I do hold a 1-game lead, and we will be keeping track of the picks for our guests when they come on as well. And yeah, I guess let's get right into it. Drew, Jake, 2 out of our 4 panel members.
Jake, why
right
don't
here.
you break down your opponent here?
Yeah.
2-0, 17-0. I don't even need to break down my opponent. Fraud. Okay. Anytime I'm playing them, immediately it's over. I no comp here. What do we got? Sam Laporta, Sam LaWonta,
Greg Dortch.
Greg Dortch. Greg, go sit on a porch. Xavier Worthy, Xavier Unworthy. DJ Moore, DJ Less.
See, now you're just making fibs.
Beav, any rebuttal?
Yeah, it's the 2022, the inaugural league champion you're going
James,
Jacob.
I can't cook. I need my wife to do that. Jalen, I don't know. Hurts is already bad, so I don't know.
I think it's gonna be could be a potentially matchup of the week. But we got Zippy over here that's got a thumb up his ass right now. That thinks it's gonna be an actual blowout, but we'll see what happens here.
How are you feeling about your guys, Drew?
I think DJ Moore's gonna have a good game. I mean, he slow start. I mean, he was in the medical tent for the most of the first half. That's why I didn't think he performed that well. Caleb looked like a bag of chips out there. I mean, that doesn't help either. But I think this is the week they bounce back. I mean, we go against the Texans, but I don't know. It's gonna be a tough one. Jake, you're going.
I mean, I'm gonna win. I don't
think you're gonna win. So you got fucking Jaden Dix down there who
Right.
fucking plays. You're lucky he plays the Giants.
You just said your quarterback was a bag of chips.
I said last week, buddy. Your fucking quarterback's gonna be a bag of chips this week. So
He's playing the Giants.
I don't care who he's playing.
Yeah. Okay. We got.
All right.
No,
let's go.
let's
go predictions. Well, obviously we know where those two stay. JP, where are you looking?
I'm upon first look, I was really leaning Drew here, but I'm not even gonna lie. I think the confidence that Zippy's exuberating right now has swung me to pick Zippy here. And I don't know how in the world Sam Laporta is projected 19 points. In what world is a tight end ever? Drew is not hitting his projection.
That tight end premium, baby.
I was gonna say tight end premium, maybe.
My other thing was, and I'll talk about it more once we get to power rankings, but Jake scored 163 points and didn't even hit his ceiling. I was fully expecting him to hit 190. So
why are we supporting this loser?
No, I'm just I'm
good question.
Jake
But
as well.
I just gotta keep it honest.
I don't like this at all. Like, why are we supporting him? Shit's on your team. Now we're supporting him. I don't get it.
It's only during the week. Everyone loves me. I'm known as a reasonable, nice, kind, friendly, helpful guy until you're playing me.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll keep it short. It's Jake, and anytime you score the most points in the league the week prior, you're probably going to get a good amount of the votes for the next week. So I'll agree with JP in that regard.
I'm just going to say this. Caleb Williams will have more points than Jane Daniels this week. There you go.
Book it. You heard it here first.
All right, Beav. Now we're gonna finish this segment out with you rapid firing 3 questions about any topic you choose to the King in the North. Any topic you choose. Ready? Here we go. You got 30 seconds to fire them off. Ready? Go.
You put me on the spot, man. Any questions?
Anything. Go. 3 questions.
All
any
right.
topic.
Who is your least favorite member in this dynasty, and tell me why?
That's a great question. Well, one of you 3 maybe with your communism. Tie the untrustworthies right up there too. Bunch of trade. Lockheed Martin, yeah, right. He's given all his weapons to the Russians and China. But truly, my least favorite, just in the aspect of fantasy, is that guy with Patrick Mahomes, who I cursed a couple years ago. I mean, he bullies. I'm not going to say that. He bullies a certain demographic of the league. Okay, a certain demographic that's just this playful, creative, innocent thinkers, and he just decides to. It's like you're maybe this immigrant coming over and you gonna buy this house, but you actually have the money. So he just takes all your money and then he says, "Oh, it's still my house," and that's what he's done to the entire league. That are these creatives, very thoughtful, very kind people. So I'm very much out on Mr. Mahomes and friends.
I like
Next
the
question,
response. All right, what is one player in this league, not manager-wise, actual player that you dislike, that you cannot play in your team ever again?
On your team, Zippy.
Yeah. Oh, that's on my team?
Yeah.
Like
what player do you despise?
No, they wouldn't be
don't
on the
have your
roster.
trust.
No,
Well, no,
I'm
it's
just
someone on the roster.
Okay.
Maybe you hate them in real life. Maybe you got a personal vendetta against them.
I mean, we could do roster too, but I was just saying around the league, what player you despise, like that you hate going up against, like.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Who do I not?
Is there anyone that just like pisses you off anytime you see him?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I very much dislike Ben Roethlisberger. He's not in the league anymore. I wish it was him in the elevator with Ray Rice. Not a fan of that guy.
Final question, Beav.
Final question, Beav. Make it unfootball related.
All right, here we go. All right, go-to drink at the bar. Hit me.
I knew that was going to be the question. I knew for a fact that was.
It's a good one. I would say my favorite drink at the bar is when I get to drink on company money. That's my favorite.
Very respectable answer there.
Hey, I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
Favorite memory from the mustache crawl?
Oh God. I think the train ride in's always the best. Not on the Metro, but when you hop on the Red Line and things start to get a little spicy, you get to meet a lot of very interesting Chicagoans. That's when it gets best. I know there was a point where there were some probably very nice, innocent ladies sitting by us who were getting some certain calls from the Beaver himself. So yeah, that wasn't great. That was a pretty good time.
Before you go, Jay, can you show off the jersey to the listeners that you are?
Yeah. I might get. I'm gonna have to put this down for a second, but
that's okay. This is Chris Ivory, New York Jets. Deep cut.
Hey, boys, I just want to.
You can hate me, you can love me, but I got fucking jerseys for days.
Mr. Zaparo, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you joining us here on Just Beavin, the first Beavin Guest, and I'm sure the first of many that you will be joining us here on the podcast prior to week 2. Thank you so much, sir.
Appreciate it, fellas.
Thanks, Zip.
Jacob, thank you so much for joining us here, the first Beavin Guest. You got to see him recap his week 1 matchup with JP and preview his week 2 matchup with Drew. So pretty fitting time to have him join the show here. We still have 6 other week 2 matchups to preview. And right on cue, JP, we're going to start with you taking on Frank, a couple of 0-1 teams. So someone's going to be 0-2 here between 2 of the top teams in this league and in North Division entering the second week of the season. JP, just want to get your overall thoughts playing Frankie, who came off a week where he undershot his projection by about 50 points.
Yeah, that always makes me nervous. One down week, you expect a bounce back week. And, Jordan Mason did all he could, to fight for Kevin Parker in week 1. I still would prefer Christian McCaffrey to come back healthy. Jordan Mason just does not catch passes. And if Derrick Henry plays like he's 50 again, I will certainly be 0-2 again. I'm certain. I mean, some of these projections for Frank's team are just. I mean, Ahmad projected almost 19 points. Pacheco 15. I mean, Patrick Mahomes isn't like that. He is not like that with 21 points. I'm probably going to lose this week, and I understand that. But never count Kevin Parker out. All right. Never count Kevin Parker out. I'm betting on myself. We're winning this week. Down with my homeowner friends. Down with Frankie. Kevin Parker to get to 1-1, baby.
Yeah, luckily for you, even if you do drop, I mean, 2 weeks don't make a season. I think we've all learned that. We know that well. You've mentioned it on many occasions throughout the podcast, JP, that both years we've had this league, the final team to get into the playoffs ended up winning the whole thing. So a couple weeks aren't going to make or break your season. It's just a tough draw for both you and I mean, I'm not saying I'm a tough draw for Frank, but he probably anticipated beating me in week one. So if he did fall to you in week two, it'd be evened up at 500, not a huge deal. But yeah, this matchup all of a sudden becomes a lot more interesting, having a couple of 0-1 teams and two very talented rosters going at it. I'll keep it short and sweet. And I have this as well for another guy who we have in our power rankings in the top five. Frank's team on paper is the best in the league. 112 points in week one is not very characteristic of what his squad can bring to the table. I just don't see that happening again. I don't see him underperforming again. If he does lose, it's going to be a case of this just being an absolute shootout. I think it's worth mentioning that, and everyone should know that JP finished with the second most points scored in the league, yet he unfortunately isn't able to win. And then we look at the 12th most points scored and tie gets a victory. So unfortunately, that's just how fantasy football works. You're going to deal with getting in shootouts and not winning games, and you're going to deal with injuries. Just a tough draw to begin it. But yeah, I just don't anticipate Frank's team having another dud week like that. He's going to be my pick here for this particular matchup in week two.
I'm gonna say it. Uh, it's just gonna come down to who Frank plays. I mean, he's got a tough squad to pick from, as we talked in the matchups last week. He had a tough decision choosing between Walker and Stevenson, and it paid off. We'll see what he does, but I'm gonna take JP actually in this matchup. I think Ladd is gonna go over his projection. I think he's gonna go bonkers against Carolina. I think him and Herbert are gonna go nuts. That's just me. And I also think it's just gonna come down to the receiver play. I mean, if you just look at the receiver play, I'm taking Cup over Neighbors. I'm taking Adams over Zay Flowers. I'm, I mean, if Marvin Harrison plays like last week, I'm probably gonna take St. Brown.
Yeah,
But I mean,
1.4 points really isn't going to get the job done.
no. But I mean, that's what I got here. I think it's just gonna come down to the receiver play, and whoever's receivers play better, I think that's who's gonna win the match.
Thinking about, oh, never mind. They dropped McCaffrey's projection. He was projected 21 earlier. I was going to say, probably going to drop McCaffrey in the lineup just so this projection looks a little better before we kick off this match. But all right, let's get moved on to the next one here. We got Banana Peeler and Kale versus Russian Vodka and Jack.
I can keep this short and sweet if you guys want.
Yeah.
Go for
I
it.
mean, I mean, this ain't even gonna be a matchup. I mean, Kale's gonna win by 40. Sorry, Bauer. I mean, this is just gonna be a fucking blowout. I mean, Kale's team, they're already frustrated. They got their first loss handed to them by the Dirty Beavs, and they're just ready to rock and roll. And I think Chase is gonna bounce back. I think he's gonna have a 20 plus game this week. And I think Tua and Tyreek are gonna go bonkers this week against Buffalo on Thursday night. I just don't think Buffalo has the tools to stop Tyreek, and I just think he's gonna go bonkers.
I didn't
How
realize
about
that's what Tua looked like now.
Yeah,
It
with the hair.
looks like an
Dude,
old picture
did you
of him.
see did you see that Twitter post he had of reacting to the arrest on Tyreek? That was hilarious. You know
I
what I'm
did
talking
not.
about?
I'll have to look at it after the recording. But
Yeah.
no, I agree along the lines with you, Drew. It's one of those where Kale's team, once again, tough loss to you, pretty tight in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, not as close as a 1.5 point difference with JP and Jake, but still, when you look at general fantasy matchups, that type of deficit for JP and Jake isn't normal. You normally don't see games that close. A close matchup's usually within 8 to 12 points, and that's what you guys had. So it's just simply of him being a better team. The projections speak for themselves. Jack finishing with 85 points last week, worst mark in the league, and we have him ranked toward the bottom of our power rankings for a reason. You got guys like Chase Brown. I'm not sure if he's currently has Jalen Tolbert. Once again, we're recording really late on Wednesday. Lineups are going to change. Things are going to be different. But either way, it's a depth thing for me. And yeah, Jalen Tolbert is still in there. Mark Andrews,
I,
we'll see how that week two responds. Isaiah Likely well outplayed him in week one. And the new nickname that Jack gave Mark Andrews is pretty fitting. The new left tackle went scoreless fantasy point wise and just in general in the first half. So there are certain things that I'm looking at here. It's just one of those where the talent isn't on Jack's side and he'll fall to 0-2 after this week.
I just also before you hop in, I just hope he has some type of plan that he wants to go into next year because his roster now that he has he isn't going to get any better if he just stays like this. He's got no picks. He's got nothing. I mean, like JP said previously, he's got his first next year. I
That's
mean,
some
this
odd
team.
JP rhyme, bro.
I mean, this squad he has is just basically you're playing shoots and ladders. That's what I'm going to give it right now. That's what I'm going to describe it as. Playing shoots and ladders. There you go.
Kale's winning this. It's all, and the last thing I'm going to say is I do think Jack will bounce back this week. I mean, it's hard to replicate what McLaurin, the dud McLaurin, just put up, and I'm thinking. I mean, the Bengals always start terribly week one, so maybe they bounce back against KC in that late afternoon slot. Maybe Chase Brown finds the end zone. I think Jack will beat his projection in terms of a bounce back. Now, whether that be 114.17, fine, so be it. I do think he beats his projection. I still think Kale wins this match by 20. So let's move on to the Mean Green Machine in Luke Hunley versus Ty and Lockheed Martin. The first thing I noticed that jumped off the screen at me, Ty has benched his 2 first-round pick investment in Will Levis.
Oof.
Moved on to Gardner Minshew going up against Baltimore this week. That's the first thing I just noticed when I clicked on this.
So that's what I was going to say earlier in the preview that we did earlier is that he paid 2 first-round picks, right? Did he do 2 first and a second, or just 2 first?
I think it was just 2 first.
He did 2 first, and after week 1 now, he's like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm benching him. I mean, like, how can you invest 2 first?
2 first and a third.
And third, and our boy Gabe Davis, 2 first and a third for Will Levis, and you're not, and that apparently is your guy, and you're not even gonna play him now. You're just gonna be like, oh, it's just he's had 1 bad week, I'm done. You guys got anything to add to that? I mean, I just think it's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. For me, the biggest discrepancies at the quarterback position, obviously Josh Allen coming off a bonkers week. Not necessarily saying he's going to replicate 31 points against Miami, but you know what he's all about. He went 1-1 in our initial startup draft for a reason. And playing a guy like Gardner Minshew, who is a fringe starting quarterback, let's be honest, he's a backup quarterback in terms of NFL standards against a pretty solid Baltimore defense. He's projected under 12 points. That's just a recipe for disaster. I love Luke's 1-2 punch at the running back spots. Bijan and Brees Hall, how could you not? And you're seeing Ty Chandler and Tony Pollard, who had an okay game fantasy-wise standards against Chicago, but that's a week-by-week thing. And yes, of course, Darius Slayton still stands strong in Luke's lineup. A little nervous about Jerry Jeudy. That trade, it was funny that he played Matt in week 1, making that deal with Diggs. But yeah, looking for Kyle Pitts to do well. George Pickens with how Pittsburgh's offense was in week 1, 6 field goals. Having Justin Fields, a guy who we have all too much familiarity and experience with, he looked really good. And I was impressed with George Pickens. Obviously, 13.5 isn't world shattering, but still, I mean, he could have gone out there and easily laid a dud with how just honestly not great of a game that was offensively. 18-10, only 1 touchdown between both teams. I like what he's got there, and just matchup by matchup, and the projections speak for themselves. I'm very high on Luke's team, and in terms of the core players and the high-end players that he has, he's going to start 2-0 this year as well.
You guys got any projections on Darius Slayton this week? I got him at 10.75.
I think Darius Slayton's going to score a touchdown.
I do too.
Call my shot.
I think
he's in concussion protocol, so he may not score.
If he plays, he's scoring a touchdown.
That's even better. He's banged up.
Man, that game is going to be so bad. Washington and New York, that is going to be brutal. The Giants got to find the end zone first, but if they do, I think Darius Slayton will score just for
nothing's going to beat New York and Carolina and Germany, wherever that is. Is that where it's at?
Oh, that's right. That's an international game. Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah. I think George Pickens goes well under 13.5 this week. Pat Surtain just absolutely clamped DK Metcalf this past week. I mean, absolutely boxed him.
Totally aware. Yeah, that was not fun.
Anywho, I think Luke wins this pretty convincingly. I don't think Ty hits 106. I think he goes under 100 again, but I also think Luke does not hit his projection, but Luke wins anyway. So
he was pretty close to his projection week 1. He was projected 128 point something. He ended up with 127 point something.
I'm banking that Allen is not going to make up for the duds.
I wasn't really looking, but is that Ty's best next running back, Ty Chandler?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Oh, because Mostert's out. Okay, that makes sense now. Okay.
And Shane Waldron just doesn't acknowledge Khalil Herbert, so
which is crazy. Travis Homer, baby. It's Travis Homer season.
Moving on, we got dedicated Wham Boyer going up against Surprisingly good lineup. A little shocked. And Matt, I briefly touched on this. I said a bounce back for Boyer. Bounce
Yeah.
back Boyer. Big baller brand, bounce back Boyer. You tell me the difference. I can't tell. Cam wins it. Cam beats his projection. I'm calling it right now. Cam's the first one. He scores 170 this week. Matt doesn't hit his projection. Matt gets blown out.
I was gonna say I have Cam north of 150. Similar reasoning with Frankie. His team's not able to put up, in my opinion, 2 dud weeks in a row. Cam having Dade, having that benefit in week 1, a good warm up is kind of like college football, right? A good tune-up game before you really get going into your season. Him
Not
scoring,
Notre Dame.
yes, scoring south of 120. I don't think it'll happen again this weekend. I will agree with you, JP, on Matt not hitting his projection either. On paper, it looks good, it looks competitive, but the depth in the lineup, I love Cam's receiver trio of Olave, Waddle, and Cooper, and with the exception of Olave, that could be tough with Dallas's secondary. The other 2 matchups don't really scare me a whole lot in that regard. I like the side that Cam's got going on for that. So pretty easy pick for me here. And Boyer, he'll improve to 2-0 on the season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, it's gonna sound crazy, but I mean, I think at the Superflex, I think I like Jackson Smith-Njigba better than Bryce Young. I mean, that's just what I think. And I also think I don't think Chris Olave is gonna have another dead week. I think he's gonna. I mean, they're just up so much. I think they just stopped feeding the ball feeding the ball. I think they just wanted to get it over with and ran the ball. Uh, so we'll see what happens. But I think Boyer wins by 20 plus. So
Let's keep this one short and sweet. Cam, we just talked about in week 1 having an absolute stellar. Dade is Dade. My note is Cam wins. Enough said.
Yeah, my note here is Dade's squad outperformed week 1 projections. Props to him. But it's still Dade. That's what I wrote. So short and sweet.
yeah, I mean, his team says it, the 2024 Titanic. I mean, he's sinking real far down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pretty simple. That's where we're leaning in this matchup. And yeah, last but certainly not least, the IR back at it again, looking to go 2-0 for the first time
So,
in franchise history.
so this is what I got on you, Yak.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna win by 15 plus. But I'm worried about Burrow. Is he healthy or is he not? I mean, is that hand really factoring in, or you think that's just the bluff?
I think it's just something that's going to stay with him the rest of his career, if I'm being honest with you. And
I
I said
agree.
this to you before we started recording. I like the duo of Burrow and Herbert just as quarterbacks, but as fantasy quarterbacks, I'm a little concerned. Just long term, I know it's not something great to have, but just I just like having the job security. Yeah, Herbert went with 10. I mean, you saw that was Jim Harbaugh football though. J.K.
Oh
Dobbins
yeah.
absolutely
They
exploded last
also don't
week.
have weapons. And I truly think now they're playing Carolina this week, so it's going to be another Jim Harbaugh football game. But I think that Jim Harbaugh also knows that when it comes down to it, that they have a gunslinger in Herbert.
Yeah.
And when they got to fight back from deficits, they're not going to run the ball a bajillion times because, quite frankly, in the first half, it didn't work. They weren't moving the ball at all. They were losing 7-6 at halftime. It wasn't working, and they just wore down that defensive line. And they're going to run all over Carolina.
I can't believe
when they end up playing teams like the Chiefs, you're not going to sit there and wear those teams down. Those teams are too good for that. You're going to have to let Justin Herbert play Justin Herbert football. I'm quite frankly not worried at all about your your quarterbacks. Justin Herbert he's 20, 26, 25, 26 still eventually. If Sleeper resets me off of the freaking match one more time, I'm going to lose it. Justin Herbert will be perfectly fine once they get him some weapons. Joe Burrow worries me a little bit because I do think that elbow injury. I read an article a long time ago, over a year now, that elbow injury is going to be something that lingers with him for the rest of his life. It's essentially the Tommy John of football, but you can't get surgery on it because it messes everything up. I think that's going to stick with him for the rest of his career. Hopefully we get to a point in medicine where he can get over this, but yeah, see, this is what I'm saying. It says it isn't bothering him. He's been saying that for a year, and he looks just not like himself. So
bunch of BS. Yeah. The other thing that worries me about this matchup, but I think you're still going to win by 15. It just depends if A-Chain's going to play or not.
Yeah, I was going to say, once I get to go on my spiel, that's going to be part of it.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to matter, though. So.
My one note was Andy wins, could see an upset. I don't think there's going to be an upset, though. I'm going to take Andy as my pick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll hit the projection here. If you look throughout you got me too, Beef?
I was just saying, I'm just also going to take you, yeah. I just don't see this being an upset at all, even if A-Chain doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about in the recap, the injuries are tough, man. It's something that we're gonna have to deal with, and of course, HA being a question mark is tough too. I do have a plan if he does not play, and no, it is not Jalen Wright. I have Jalen Wright, which I believe will be his speedy handcuff long term rookie out of Tennessee. Not going to play him in his NFL debut. I feel like I could be risking some stuff, especially with it being Thursday night football, like the running back depth I have with Jerome Ford. So that's where that switch would go in. I do
They
really
s-
need, yeah,
so they say what was wrong with Puka? Just the MCL? Like, is he out just 8 weeks, or what they say
sprain
with him?
MCL.
Sprained MCL.
Well, initially they said probably going to IR, and then McVay came out today and said it's probably going to be longer than 4 games. So
So 6 to 8.
Yeah, no, but I was saying, really need Hollywood Brown to make his Chiefs debut this week. Like I need
yeah,
him to
that'd be
play very
nice.
badly just for depth. Did go in and pick up uh Jordan Akins, nice 32-year-old sixth offensive lineman, backup tight end for Cleveland. Don't love the fact that I have to play him, but based on how we saw Shane Waldron run the offense at tight end for the Bears over the weekend, I have no faith starting Cole Kmet right
That's
now.
crazy, man.
So it's just going to have to work the way it is. Calvin Ridley, I'm expecting a little bit of a better game. I know it's Sauce Gardner, so that could be tough, but there's other weapons too on the Tennessee side. I'm just hoping for a little more consistency. That is a brutal start to the Titans season for receivers going Bears and then Jets. Christian Watson, I hate the fact that I have to play him. He is the most touchdown dependent guy, but it's one of those where, I mean, it's either him or Xavier Legette. And I like Legette. I really do. And I've been talking about this for the last couple of days. I love him. I think he can be awesome, but it's Bryce Young and it's the Panthers. That's what worries me. So we're just gonna have to wait and see that one out. And yeah,
Does it
it's
work?
gonna be ugly, but I do think I get it done, but it will not be pretty in the slightest. But I'm also not gonna apologize if I end up 2-0. So
Does it worry you that Watson got his tutty last week or no?
no, because it's just if he's gonna get it, he's gonna get it. That's
That's
just kind of
fair.
how it is, and that's how I feel. So those are our week 2 picks. JP has them written down. JP, if you want to go through them again. And also, we did not have Jake on for all 7 picks. He obviously picked himself in the preview with Drew, but he had told us all of his picks before he logged off as well.
All right, so let's recap this. In the match of Zippy versus Drew, Drew, you took yourself. Me, Andy, and Zippy all took Zippy. In the match of me versus Frankie, me, Drew, and Zippy took me. Andy, you took Frankie. In the matchup of Kale versus who's Kale up against again? Oh, Jack. Everyone swept the board with Kale. In the match of Boyer versus Matt, everyone went with Boyer. In the matchup of Crook versus the Titanic, everyone went with Crook. And in the matchup of Andy versus OD, everybody went Andy.
All right, pretty much sweep.
Pretty chalky week.
Pretty
Yeah,
chalky week.
pretty much sweeping the board. A couple of exceptions.
Only one that's
but
got some differentiation is the me and Frankie game and the Drew and Zippy game. So
yeah, there we go. There you have it. Like we said, JP Drew 4-3 after last week. I'm 5-2, and we'll keep tabs on our guests as well when they come on, what they finish as for the week. Before we get out of here, though, want to give our week 2 power rankings for all of you. JP Ryder Roll, he's got them pulled up on his screen right now. And fellas, a lot of movement, and it starts at the top. After being the highest scoring team in week 1, Jake leapfrogs 3 spots and is now our number 1 team in the league as we enter the second week.
yeah, as I mentioned during the segment with Zippy, as much as it pains me to admit, I don't think he even touched his ceiling. I truly think that Zippy is a team that's going to have the week-to-week potential to score 175 plus. Jaden Daniels on the ground, whether he sucks passing, that's irrelevant. I mean, he scored 28 points pretty much all on the ground. It's just that team is, and Saquon Barkley looks like he's in the running for Offense Player of the Year after one game. It's going to be a hard team to beat, especially when he doesn't have those tough decisions to make, like Frankie. Jake's going to be playing the same team every single week. And I think that I just think his team has a much higher ceiling than Frankie's high floor.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the spot. I mean, his team is just all around solid. I mean, if he ever got a bad week, I'd be very shocked. I mean, I hate Jay Daniels, but I mean, if he's gonna rush for 3 touchdowns, how you gonna stop him? And plus, I think the Eagles are gonna get rid of their tush push. I think they're mainly gonna save Hurts's body and feed the ball to Barkley. Now they have an actual power back, so I mean, good for him.
I think the same thing. Good point, Beef.
Yeah, and you look at it, top four all out of the North Division. Frankie losing his top spot for the first time, I think, ever since we've been doing power rankings. He's down to number 2. JP, you're down a spot to number 3. And then Drew, you moved up a spot to number 4. Fellas, if we just want to go through the 3 members of the North that have had a little bit of switch throughout the 2 through 4 spots, but primarily the top 4 has been occupied by you two, Jake and Frank, in every power ranking we've done within the last couple of months.
Yeah, I think the decision to move Frank down, I had him at 2, right behind Zippy, and Drew, if I remember correctly, had him at 4. But I think that was we're just really questioning his managerial choices. It's not a roster issue. It's just, he has the players. Can he plug them in at the right time? And I say that like it's an easy thing to do, but I mean, you really can't know when these players are going to go off. But at the same time, it's your job to try and predict when that's going to happen. And so I think that's why we moved him down. I obviously have to get bumped down. I lost to Zippy. My roster is not better than Frank's. That moves me down. And Drew moving up a spot after getting a win there. His roster did not fully perform. He still scored 137 points. I think that's enough to move him up a spot. Beav, anything to add on that?
No, you just hit on the spot. I mean, like you said, my team didn't hit my full potential yet. I mean, that day will come. Like you said, just like Frank, just have some questioning about his managing skills. But other than that, that's all I got. You got anything, Yak?
No, I was going to say, for those who don't know, this is an average. The 3 of us make power rankings, and then JP so kindly averages it out. So this is all different rankings. Like my top 4 was this 4 to some extent, a little different, though I flipped 1 and 2. I still kept Frank at number 1 and Jake at 2. But yeah, JP 3, Drew 4. This has just been the consistency. These are the top 4 rosters in our league. And in terms of, it's all about decisions. And also fantasy football is a game of luck. That's how it works. You see it every year. I mean, like I said earlier in the episode, both of our 7 seeds in our 2 years as a league have won the title. It's just kind of how everything shakes out. It's who you play each week. It's how it works out. But as we head down to spots 5, 6, and 7, fellas, we get our first appearances from the South Division. Cam Boyer falls down 2 spots, still ranked as the highest team in the South. Luke moves up 2 spots to number 6, and one of 2 guys to stay completely still, Kale at number 7.
Yeah, the Cam moving down. For me, I had him at 5. Actually, we all had him at 5. Who am I kidding? I moved him down just because of the Jordan Love injury. I'm a little worried that he's going to roll with 1 quarterback. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, his roster is deep enough. If any one of 2 people would be able to recover from it, it's certainly him. Luke moving up 2 spots was an absolute shock to me. I had Luke at 8. Andy, you had Luke ranked exactly at 6. So what do you got to say about Luke?
I think I talked about it a lot in the preview. In terms of his top end talent, you have Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson on the same team, but Josh Allen fully capable of having those 30-point weeks. And I know it'll be tough with Surtain for George Pickens. I'm a little worried about his receiver room. It's not a strong part of his team, but when you have those top 3 guys, Bijan, Breece, and Josh Allen, they could combine for 70 to 80 points on any given week. For me, that's all I need to know about his team. And then anything else you can get there is icing on the cake. In terms of what you're going to see in half of this league, he could outbeat half the league just by having those 3 and a couple of other decent performances. A lot of this is about depth in the league, but when you have those 3 guys healthy as top end talent, I really do love that too.
And then Drew, you had Kale at 6. We got him at 7 with the average. What do you got to say about Kale after you just knocked him off too?
I mean, I think he just has a great, solid team. Chase, Tyreek, and Kelsey just were at their best performance this week. I don't think Kelsey is going to get 8 points every week. I mean, I think he's going to hit his average. I think he's going to have 20-plus games. And Chase, I mean, I think him just sitting out all training camp didn't help him this week. But I think his running back room is a little what scares me of Kale. But other than that, I like his floor, and I think he can sneak in the playoffs with his 3 top guys of Tyreek, Kelsey, and Chase.
Yeah, and it's looking like it's just a preference thing for the 3 of us, because we talk about the big 3 with both teams for both Luke and Kale. Andy liking the Allen, Breece, Bijan top 3. Me and Drew preferring the Tyreek, Chase, Kelsey big 3. Then we move on to Cam Crook at number 8, an expansion team in the top 8. 1 spot outside of a playoff spot here. We moved him up 3 spots. I had him at 7. So I was really feeling the compact comrade love. Then we got the B-Town Brawlers falling all the way from 6 to 9. Andy, you're a little injured. Me and Beav really reflected that in our rankings. You kept yourself in the top 7. Let's just get a little bit of discourse with why that was.
Yeah, the newly rebranded injured reserve. It's a long season, fellas, and I've had my teams battle through injuries before. And I know it doesn't look pretty now with A-Chain, but the only reason why I wasn't as worried is you look to, and this is no disrespect to my opponents, but my schedule is a little bit on the lighter side for the next 4 to 5 games. Not saying I won't lose. I'm sure I'll lose 1 or 2 of those. But at the same time, I'm not really going up against, I'm not facing anyone in the top 6 for the next 4 to 5 games. So for me, that's all I need to know is that my team can scrap wins if that's the case. And I know obviously we're not going for projectability in the future. We're going for what the team looks like now. And yeah, we're a bit banged up, but it's a long season.
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it. I know as a consensus, I can get back into that top 7, top 6 here in the next couple of weeks.
No, you could have said it better, Yak. I mean, I loved your team. I still love it. I still think you can make adjustments and get back in the top 7. Just those injuries, man, just a little worry me, and that's all I gotta say about that. But I forgot to add this. Can we go back up to Luke's team real quick? Mean Green Machine.
Of course.
Did I have him at 7 or did I have him at 6?
You had him at 7.
Okay, yeah. The one thing that worries me about him, I mean, granted, he has the best 1-2 punch at RB. He's got the best RB room in the league. I can't say anything else. The one thing that scares me though about him is him starting Deshaun Watson every week. I mean, that after watching his performance on Sunday, it just scared the living bleep out of me. I mean, just
I don't
like
think you got to bleep yourself, brother.
just in case.
I was telling on that point, I was telling fellow league member Russian Vodka earlier today how over the summer before I traded for Kyler Murray, I offered Luke some package of Ty second and something else for Deshaun Watson. And Luke told me that he thinks Deshaun Watson's value is much more than a second. So, sometimes God works in mysterious ways. I know I've had a couple trades like that. I believe year 1, I offered Andy Devontae Smith and 2 first-round picks for Cooper Kupp, and
Gotta rub it in. Yeah.
Yeah, always have to. Always have
And
to. You know when I
you ended
when
up
I
with
got
him.
out of there,
And
I
you
did
ended
end
up
up
with
with
him
you for a
anyways.
second and a third. So, but let's move on here to what the hell? Let's move on here to number 10. We got the roll red and Matt, who had a good week and would have won his week had he started Isaiah Likely, but we move him down a spot. Beav, I know you were high on Matt going into last week. So what do you got to say about Matt's team and moving down a spot here?
I just liked the trade he made for Likely, and then like I said earlier, he didn't play him. Like I just don't get the process. I mean, I just don't get what's going through his mind. I mean, and now that I'm looking at his team, I'm looking at his matchups. I just don't like his team the rest of the year. Like I just don't have that much faith in him leaping. And you know what worries me even more? I don't think he has a first now until 2027. And let me tell you, these guys are all vets that he has on his team besides Kyron Williams. But I don't think he's going to last long in the Rams because he's so injury prone. I just don't like the team he's constructed now after his managing skills, just like we talked about Frank. I don't know. You can add to that. I'm just very confused at what he was trying to do there with his first trading for 2 vets and he didn't even play them.
Yeah, I don't have much to add on that. I think you hit it on the head. And then we can clear off these last 4 and boom, 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 boom. We got Ty dropping a spot from 10 to 11 on an absolutely stinker of a performance, putting up the 12th most points and scraping a win, all because he played the lowest scorer in the league. Absolutely heartbreaking for me, angers me. I feel like the inside out character right now. Then we have Brady, who lost and moved up a spot because that's just how bad Jack's team was last week that we had to move him down. And rounding out the bottom, we have our favorite Kyle Juszczyk supporter, Dade, who, as we mentioned, will not move from 14. And you can book that.
He shouldn't.
Will not move from 14.
If he does, there will be a serious problem. If he moves up 14, there will be something seriously wrong.
Question of the night from these bottom 4. Will Jettas be traded by the end of the year? By playoffs?
No. That's a guy you do not
folks.
trade.
I send a
Cam
different
Boyer.
offer. If Ty, if you make it to this point, Ty can acknowledge I make a different trade offer for Justin Jefferson every week. And this is how it goes. I send an offer, Ty rebuttals with an offer that's probably fair. Then I send him back junk scraps, and then he rejects it, and that's the end. No words are said between each other. That's just how it goes every week. But anywho, that's our power rankings for what we got headed into week 2. Big jumps from Zippy, big falls from Andy, big jump from Crook. Then the Rascals rounding out the bottom.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Long season still to go. Recapping week 1, getting our first Beavin guest, Jake Saparo. Can you take me higher? Thanks so much for joining, Jake. Previewing week 2 and going through some power rankings. A fantastic episode number 6 here on the Just Beavin podcast. Make sure to keep it tuned in here every single week for some coverage of your favorite Dynasty League around. Thank you so much, Beaver. Appreciate that as we round out this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll see you next time.